and to understand this concept, how is this idea of that Moshe gathered the Jewish people as a concept of toil in Torah and studying Torah, that through this we have an elevation from the division and separation, to reach a state of nullification and inclusion within the holiness above. So to understand this, we need to preface that the congregation of Israel is called an Adas, a congregation of Ugam Kin Lashon Edus. It's also from the language of testimony, like it says that you are my witnesses. Look what it says in Medrash Rabbah, and that is that on the verse that if the person testifies to it that they saw it Elu Yisrael. Why is that? Because that these are Israel. Why because Hashem says that you are my witnesses. So we see that Edah is also from the language of Edim, of testimony and witnessing. Ura'ah, where they saw, what do we see? Atoharei saladas, that you were shown to know by the giving of the Torah. Oyada, and the end of the pasuk, that he knew, and you should know today, and place it onto your heart. Again, from the giving of the Torah. So all these, the testimony, and the seeing and the knowing are all part of the concepts that are connected with the giving of the Torah. So to Torah is called a testimony, that these are the testimonies and the statutes. So it uses the language of Edus, that for the Torah, and like it says in Tehillim, in the path of your Edus, I rejoiced. Of your laws, I rejoiced. That is because that which comes down from wisdom above is Torah. Therefore, the Torah is testifies to the concept of wisdom above. To the concept how wisdom above is Torah. As it explains in Torah, or and the souls of Israel are called my witnesses. Like that's like the idea that the leftovers from understanding above is the Shekhinah. So the souls of Israel are the presence of Hashem, the Shekhinah, within the world, in comparison to the concept of Chachma, which from the Torah, which comes from Chachma. So now it says, outside the curtain that's upon the testimony, meaning the Aaron of the bris, Aaron will set it up, meaning the menorah. So we see that the Edus, the Torah, that's within the Aaron Habris, and that's called the Edus. Then the Maamar V'ata Tetzaveh in Torah, or it says that the luchos that in the Aaron are called, they're the ones that are called the testimony. And there needs to be a curtain that divides and separates between the Aron of the testimony, Shubichinas Kodesh HaKodashim, which is the Holy of Holies, and the rest of the sanctuary, Asher Sham HaMenorah VaShulchan VaMizbeach, where you have the menorah and the table and the altar, the golden altar. Like it says in Parshas Truma that you should make a curtain. You should bring there behind the curtain is Aron HaEdus, the Ark of Testimony, and the curtain should divide for you between the holy and the holy of holies. Parshas Perek Samech Kaf Gimel Bezor Chilik Aleph Tesvav Gabi Beka Velo Beka or Baka. Look in these places about the concept of the curtain and breaking through it. About Perisham B'Torah or Suf Parshas Leich B'Dibur HaMaskil Viv Dila B'Parshas Vayira B'Dibur HaMaskil Pasach Eliyahu B'Dibur HaMaskil Vata Tetzavi Gabi Mechutz L'Paroches concerning outside the Paroches. B'Likuti Torah Parshas Zachari B'Bir Al Pasuk B'Yom Hazeh Chaper At Yom Kippur, that where I guess the Kohen Gadol goes behind the curtain. Parshas Pinchas B'Dibur HaMaskil Iskor B'Nei Lach Midirush Hashini Perek Dal B'Bir Al Pasuk V'Eschananai Lavai. Look in all these places. Vayam B'Rabba Suf Parshas B'Midbar Daf Reish Kefala from Al Pasuk V'Lo Yavo Liros Kebala. Look what it says about you will not come to see when the vessels are swallowed or covered by the skins, and they would die. So we see that there's the covering of the vessels is also a concept similar to a container or a curtain. But Parshas Naso Parshut Beis Daf Reish Mem Zayin Dalet Al Pasuk Merkavo Argamon Vasisa Parshas Tchilas Vargamon, where it says that his chariot is Argamon. So it says you should make a curtain that's made out of the wool, the dyed wool, and the argamon. So we see the paroches and the argamon and the chariot are all synonymous. And the concept is Prsah being called olam ve'olam. Now spiritually you have this concept of a curtain between each world. I'm B'Torah or Parshas Vayira B'Dibur HaMaskil Pasach Eliyahu Adrom HaMailos, world, the high one world higher than the other, from to the highest heights. Kamo bein Atzilus Labria. For example, between the world of Atzilus and the world of Bria, Sheish Prsah HaMafsekes, that you have this curtain that divides. V'chein ba'Atzilus Atzmos, to an Atzilus itself, min hamochin lamidos, from the intellectual concepts to the emotional concepts. Like it's brought in Siddur on the verse that he gives snow like fleece, where it explains the concept that upon the heads of the angels is this firmament that's like ice. Because you cannot compare the intellect and the essence of the intellect to the essence of the emotion that's born from it. So you have this rakia, this firmament that solidifies the liquid to the solid, that's like this curtain that divides between the more intellectual concepts to the emotional concepts, where the animal angels that are affected by emotional service to Hashem, the intellectual concepts behind that are beyond them, above their heads, so to speak, above the heads. Al Rashi Echayos Rakia. I mashkas meaning Kodesh Mila Begar Meichulu. Look at what it says about the concept of how Kodesh is the concept of holy of Chochmah is something for itself that is, so to speak, exists on its own, the intellect as it is beyond the emotions. Now the essence of emotions like love and fear and so forth, you find them in an animal just like in man. So if so, that the arousal of an emotion comes from the essence of intellect specifically, shatinuk mispar ledvarim ketanim, that it depends upon the level of the intellect, like a child who's aroused by small things. Mash inkin bebardas, which is not the case with someone with more knowledge, that according to their intellect, the level of their intellect, that's how great their emotions are and what they desire. That is because a glimmer comes from the intellect to the emotions. But nonetheless, it's not the whole intellect that goes into the emotion, only a little glimmer. Like we're saying that there's a curtain between them. Like it's brought in Torah or about how it explains, I took you out of Mitzrayim, like the concept of the Mitzvah Garon. That you have, he's going to say it. So we must say that there's this curtain in between them. So in between the intellect and the emotions, there's this curtain, and that's the neck, the boundary of the neck in between the head and the chest, like the between the mind and the heart. Like what it says, that I took you out of the burden of Egypt, meaning to say going from the neck, from the mind to the heart. That the intellect breaks through this curtain and gives birth to love. And so too there's a further curtain between the concept that's beyond intellect to intellect, since you cannot compare between them at all, between intellect and what's beyond it. And that's what's called within the brain, the membrane of air, in between the actual brain and the membrane. That it says in Zohar that within the skull, within the brain, the vessel, there's this chroma, this membrane, the avira, that's made out of air. Hagav is a loshon or Parsha Gimel Parochis Nikra Parsa. It says the curtain is called a Parsa in Aramaic. Hamavdil being Chetzi Partsuf Elyon Letachton, that divides between the two parts of the Partsuf of a supernal spiritual construct between the higher and the lower. Lachin Gam Kroma Davira Nikra Parochis, and therefore this concept of the membrane of air spiritually is called the curtain Nikra Parochis Vistam Parsa Hu Shabin Atzilus Libriad Kanashono. And whenever you just say the Parsa, it refers in general to the concept of the one that's between the world of Atzilus and the world of Bria. Be'emek HaMelech Kasav Sheish Gamkin Parochis Parsa bin Ak Anikra Adam de Bria Beina Bechina Shalamayla Me'ak Anikra Ak Stima. And so it explains that you have this curtain between Adam Kadmon, between the highest concept in the world within Keser, which is called Adam of Bria, and between that which is beyond Ak, which is called the hidden Ak, Adam Kadma Stima. And if Ak is Adam of Bria, it's the Adam, the higher concept of Bria within Keser. So what is Atzilus in comparison to it? That's the hidden Ak. Ad Ganaga, that's the end of the God. So that's how the Emek Atzilus Legabe Briachul Ad Ganaga. So that's the Emek HaMelech on this concept of the Parsa beyond Ak. V'derech klal Gimel Parsos Hein. And in general, you have three concepts of Parsa. Min Atzilus Lebria, from Atzilus to Bria, Min HaMochin Lemidos, and between the intellect and the emotions, Min Bechinas HaKeser Lemochin, and between Keser and intellect. So there's the lowest one, and then there's the one within the world, and then there's the one beyond the world. And this is that we say kadosh 3 times, holy, 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 meaning to say beyond and further beyond. Where it says about, and that day he will shave with a shaving blade, and meaning to say to cut off the tzimtzumim and so forth, because you're going higher than the shairos, than the concept of the hairs in the days of Mashiach, where it says you have 3 times kadosh view and erech gimel parsos halalu, and you can understand the concept of these 3 parsas, these 3 curtains, just like in a person you have the courtyard of the liver, the place that's where the liver is, vinikra parsa, that the liver is this, or the fat around it, it's called this curtain. It's in between the limbs for breathing and the limbs for digesting the food and containing it. Means to say divides between the higher and the lower functions within the body. That's within man also. You're going to have these different curtains, so to speak, between one level and the other. And that's the concept of this curtain as it goes higher all the way to the top. And we can say that in the body of man there's also 3 curtains, like we mentioned here. The courtyard of the liver, Mitzar Hagaron, and the boundary of the neck, of the throat, Vigarom Vikrom Shel Moach, and the membrane of the mind, of the brain, Ashahin Gimel Dargos Gimel Dugmas Gimel Parsos. That these also compared to the 3 curtains that we mentioned, that is the membrane upon the brain of Zeukin and Parsos Shabin Golgalta. That's like the curtain between the skull, between the concept of the crown to the concept of the intellectual faculties of Chachma Bina Das, and the second is the boundary of the throat. That's the one between the intellect, the brains, the Gimel Rishonos, the first 3 faculties, Shebemoach bin Zayin Tachtonos, and the 7 lower ones, Shemamidus, which are the emotional attributes of Gimel. And the third, Chatzar HaKaved, is this liver. That's like the one between the world of Atzilus and the world of Bria. So like Atzilus is like breathing in comparison to the world of Bria, which is the concept of Birurim, goes down, the Vada Birurim in the lower worlds. It's like the digestive system to purify and clarify the food with Shemban and Shemaz is known. Because in Ak you also have such a parsa. So that's in parentheses, and we say that you can also have these concepts above, higher, within Keser, because in Ak you also have this curtain. The Pasik Chulu, and says in Zohar Bereshis about this concept of how let there be a firmament, refers to this middle, this membrane in the middle of a person's stomach that divides. Right? Look over there. So all concepts of division are below this curtain. Like the world of Bria is divided, something from nothing. Shalamata mina parsa, below this curtain, there's much division there in the world of Bria. Bedalid machnos, with the 4 camps of angels, derech in general. And that's like it says by the river that comes out of Eden, that from there it divides into 4 heads of the rivers. And each camp of the angels is divided further into thousands and myriads of levels. He called me the Menagedis Sham Im Hipucha, because each one of these attributes opposes its opposite. And why do you have such a state? It's because within the world of Bria, it's divided. Each one is in its own, so to speak, complete existence, divided from the other. We're going to look at the Torah over there. However, when you reach the light of Atzilus, for example, when it breaks through this curtain, then the different levels become included as one, like we're talking about with the concept of Vayakel. That Moshe's gathering is this concept of going from division to inclusion. Like a para. Look what it says about the concept of the angels, that their faces and their wings are divided, or separated from, until they, so to speak, fold them up. When they say Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. Like we said here. And that is because in the world of Atzilus, we say him and his lives are one, and his causes and his vessels are one. His meaning to say the emanations and the lights in the vessels. And like it says, it's divided. Why does it say it in two statements? I guess because you have more than one Parsa, or like it's there's this diuk in other places. What says that you will no longer be called Avram, the high father, you'll be called Avraham because you're nimshach down. So what is him and his lives? That refers to the lights that are united with their emanator. But Vigarmohi and his causes in Akelim are the vessels. Which are also united with the emanator. Like it says that a sun and its shield are Havaya Elokim. That these two names, Havaya Elokim, Havaya and Elokim, are a concept of a light in a vessel. And they're one with Hashem. Look what it says in the Siddur about how I will praise Hashem with my life, and I will sing to Hashem with my ode, which is like the body. My soul and my body will sing to Hashem. It's like the lights in the vessels being united with their source above. Just like the shield or the sheath for the sun that become one with it. So too it says in the attributes of Atzilus, you Hashem is the greatness and the strength. That is because in the world of Atzilus, the infinite light is drawn down without this type of curtain or division. Therefore, he's one with them. There's no division. Even though we did say that in the world of Atzilus you have some kind of curtain, but in the world of Atzilus there's also a concept of unity. Besides that the midos are united with above. But and with the essence of the infinite light, it's said, and he's not from any of these attributes at all. Meaning to say he's beyond them. Because the concept of attributes itself would be division. But he's just one. which is not the case with the world of Bria. So we do not say that he's one with the Keli, one with the vessels, in the same way. We say that there's a real Parsa. That is because the lights are divided and far from the emanator because of it was hidden by the curtain. And this, that it says that also the lights in the world of Bria are in a concept of separation, and that needs to be looked into, because that doesn't make as much sense. Or why? Because in the Maamar in Torah, or there's no division in when Hashem calls out to Moshe, Moshe. So on that level is the level of the Oros. There shouldn't be a division. There's no psik, there's no line between Moshe and Moshe. But nonetheless, when Bria goes up to the world of Atzilus, Prsã, above the curtain, misachtim, so they become one and unite, because as the Bria goes up into the world of Atzilus, and in Atzilus there's unity and inclusion, because he and his lives are one, like we said. And like we said, that as you go higher and higher, there's more and more inclusion. And as a comment to this, you can understand the Medrash Rabbah, Parsha Samechesel, Pasuk V'ikach Me'avnei HaMakom, that it says that Yaakov took from the stones of the place, Shamar Yaakov Avinu, Imis Achtosen, Shniyam Asar Avanim Zulazu, that Yaakov Avinu said that if these 12 stones unite one with the other, I know that I'm going to stand up for posterity, 12 tribes, given Shinis Achu Yud Beis Avanim Zulazu. And once these 12 stones united one with the other, he knew that he was going to stand up these 12 tribes. That at first glance, what's the connection between having 12 tribes to uniting 12 stones? But because that's the whole concept of these chariot, which is to unite the world of Bria with the world of Atzilus, and to elevate Malchus from the world of Bria to Atzilus. That's the whole concept of uniting and inclusion one with the other, specifically Ad Kanagah. That's the end of that